Climate change is a global phenomenon. Although the climate has had naturally occurring cycles of variance through time, what we do know now is that at the start of the Industrial Revolution, man had begun to have a much deeper impact on the environment. How much impact man would make couldn't have ever been imagined.
The Industrial Revolution began in the later half of the 18th century, and it wasn't until the advent of machinery use that intended to ease the burden of labor, decrease production time, and increase profit yields that these influences began to mount. The result from all of this ease by mechanization was being seen and felt upon the earth.
Greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane were slowly accumulating. This intensification began to cause a gradual warming of the environment. As a result, the global temperature has risen 5.5 degrees centigrade since the Holocene epoch, and global climate is likely to warm another 5.5 degrees centigrade by the end of the century.
There are many areas that are being affected by change in climate, such as livestock and crop yields, water and resource availability, and the economy of many industries. The impact from these effects of climate change on these areas has a serious collateral effect on humans and how they perceive climate change.
Human perception to climate change can vary widely. There is a tendency among people to discount climate change. Unless extreme weather is apparent, many people simply ignore the subject. Even with climate data present, many people do not engage this information. Simple denial or discounting is common.
If there is an impact on person's livelihood, then concerns over climate change increase. This is true of groups or individuals around the globe that make their income based upon an industry that depends on environmental resources. And individual circumstances also play a vital role in perceiving climate change.
When regarding an individual's environmental concern, action taken by or not taken by the individual toward climate change is a complex mechanism. Media and political input influence a person's perception of climate change and the decision to be engaged in this issue. This input influences industries such as agriculture. U.S. agriculture produces $300 billion as a market commodity. This figure includes nearly half from livestock. Agriculture and climate are so linked to one another that fluctuations in climatic variables impact crop yields. Variance in crop yields affect the volume of food produced for consumption by livestock and humans and socioeconomic consequences. Livestock production suffers greatly from high temperatures as animal stress levels increase to achieve a state of homeostasis. These metabolic stressors and changes in the animal's normal range of function can often affect fertility, overall health, and can limit the animal's production of milk, meat, or eggs. This is an issue found globally.
While talking about Nepalese agriculture, it contributes about 34% of its GDP. The country is mountainous and is prone to many natural hazards and disasters. Recent events of climatic changes have enhanced these activities and affected overall agricultural productivity of the country. Agriculture in Nepal is heavily dependent on monsoon rain. Recent climate change has contributed to irregular monsoon changes in its intensity and pattern. This has affected the crop production, changes in crop sequences, and has brought incidences of new diseases and pests in different ecozones of the country. This has led to the extinction of some local crops in the southern part, but favored introduction of vegetables and crops in the base of mountains. And also there is a shift of apple growing in the higher elevations. These changes were observed only in the last decade.
Now is the time to take sustainable actions that are implemented to reduce the vulnerability of natural and human systems to combat actual or projected impacts of climate change. Adaptations are motivated by observations of climatic changes, and others are motivated by environmental and socioeconomic conditions of the communities.
Some adaptation strategies in farming include erosion mitigation techniques, crop rotation, and the planting of forests to protect grasslands. Management of crop production, crop breeding with breeds that are heat and disease tolerant, and enhancing water and soil are adaptations to protect livestock.
Despite these opportunities, psychological barriers fail to engage people in the adaptation process. There are numerous reasons for this limited understanding regarding climate change. Simple ignorance results from a state of unawareness of changes in climate. This can breed a state of environmental uncertainty, and this uncertainty lessens the active mitigation process.
Modernized cultures have perception that the help of technological advances will help combat the impacts of climate change. The perception that technology has made great strides in improving the overall health of many nations gives hope to many that technology can help save the planet from catastrophic.
Politicians in the US were the first to challenge climate change. This opposition to the growing concern over climate created a polarization for mitigation of climate change. The political and economic elite were against even the notion of climate change and placed it among the established attitudes on global warming.
Political affiliation plays an influencing role regarding the climate change. The polarization spills over into industry and media as well. Individuals and groups have their own reasons and agendas, either accepting the change or ignoring it. They must find the reason to take positive actions or to be a neutral party to the issue. As the field of science makes progress towards scientific study of climate change and the media and political parties begin to recognize this science, individuals can start to make informed decisions and start to mitigate and adaptation on a global scale with a new paradigm in growth, sustainability, and conservation.
In December 2015, the Paris Agreement finds 195 countries, including the US, signed and committed to making substantial concessions to mitigation towards climate change. There is a growing awareness that raises the environmental consciousness of the globe and its people to share and to help save the one world that we all share.